I know this has been in development for 5 or 6 years. So tell us how it started, why you decided to do this, and why you took your time making this film over that whole period of time.
Well, I have the privilege to write for actors that I happen to have a great communication with, and starting with this gentleman, Christian Bale. So we knew we wanted to make something very ambitious and original, something kind of epic in its scope that involved themes of love and friendship who are separated and reconnected, and someone who's really been through it, like all our characters, an underdog. And we started discovering undiscovered history. And this informed the whole picture. And we knew we'd have some characters we would love, starting with Dr. Burt Berenson with his back brace and his one eye and his marriage. That's a marriage of they won't love me, they won't let me go, and his best friend Harold Woodman. And thus began the journey of this story and about 14 or 15 drafts of the screenplay. And Margot Robbie became part of the conversation for about 3 or 4 years of part of that. And then there was De Niro and John David Washington, and the rest of the cast were actors who really wanted to come to participate with us in the movie. And so I wrote the roles for them. And Christian was there every step of the way. And it was a great privilege to do that. And he was in the editing room as well. And eventually, we realized we had a huge thing that nobody knew in history, which some of my favorite movies have. They're backing into, you have people you love who are backing into something that nobody knows. The audience doesn't know it. We didn't know it. Everybody we talked to didn't know about it. So this is a cool thing for a storyteller to have as part of the story for your characters to back into and for people to go home and talk about.
It sure is, and it's a movie about so many things. In fact, I told you once before, this is almost like a novel, the way this is written. With the story weaving in and out. It's about people with hope, love, friendship, and as you just talked about, this historical kind of mix here of real events that I certainly didn't know about, and it's chilling to watch during that period what happens. But this whole mystery sort of winds there. Christian, I got to ask, you told me you were more invested in this than almost any other movie that you have made. Why is that? And what's the kind of freedom you got in working with David on creating this character all along, all those years?
Well, the investment comes literally from the amount of time that David and I spent, and this is the third film that we had made together, and I really appreciate the trust that David showed in inviting me to be involved right from the very get-go, before there was any script whatsoever. David had an idea. He had some ideas for some characters. He wanted to describe the character of Dr. Burt to me and then have me really think about that. And we did that. And we really did it with no rush whatsoever. I went and made a couple of films as we were always meeting in the diners, but then Burt was always percolating around in my brain. And then, throughout production as well. And then David is so ridiculously welcoming and collaborative, and had me come into the edit room. And I would often go like, "Is it okay? And I'll maybe come in today." And he was like, "Dude, just anytime you want, just turn up. You're welcome all the time." And that was so much fun and a great insight to me that I've never been given permission for previously. And I watched the last 10 minutes of the film, and I had a day when I was just talking with the people. They happened to be parents, and we were talking about we'd all watch the news too much and how much anxiety. There seems to be a particular amount, nowadays, right now, and not unfounded. Reasons for that, and then I was playing a game of hide and seek with my 8-year-old boy right before I left, and that was lifting me up from the previous conversation. And thank you, mate, for bringing me on this journey, because it just moves me every time I see it. Even if it's just the last 10 minutes, I look forward to it. I purposely get here so I can see it because it's a pick me up, and it's a real one though. It's with absolute grit and sincerity, and these two guys, and Valerie, but the two guys, from working class backgrounds who did everything right. to pursue the American dream, and then through different prejudices just get rejected again. And to see how they fight back against what is a seemingly impossible is ridiculously moving and uplifting, you know? And even after making it, you know, where you're meant to go numb to it, I'm not numb to this in the slightest. This moves me every single time to tears and laughter. And thank you, mate, for inviting me along on this journey.
Absolutely. And when I say it's hopeful too, it shows it shows the importance of having those lone people out there who are responsible for saving us in many different facets of history. There always are those people, and this movie shows that as well, because it goes down some scary paths here. I have to say, David, not only above the line, but here, as they say, below the line, your crafts all over the map here with a terrific group of people. You've worked with Jay Cassidy before, obviously. And I think, JR, you've worked with David on American Hustle. Is that right?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
A little bit like being in the farm system. My son likes Little League, so, and baseball. So yeah, it's great to be on his sets before, because I came at it knowing the full passion and the full exuberance of his sets. And also just that ability that like is really specific to being on a David set, where he really wants you to emotionally and passionately be raw. And in other contexts, on other sets, that feels a little scary. But with David, having been on American Hustle sets, and I just knew that that's the safest place to be, is to kind of have all of your passion in it, and he's going to support you, and he's going to want you to do that. So on Hustle, it was like a trial by fire, and I was like, oh, this is a very different way to shoot. And then when I could come at it, knowing that on this, it was incredible. It really felt like a space where you could let design soar from an instinctual place, and he would always support you in that.
And to work, I have to say, Albert Wolski's one of the greats. There's no question. I believe he's 91 years old now. What Christian, what you and Albert did with the 1931 storyline look for Bird is a master class in character meets costume design. It's a true master class. So with that as the inspiration and the foundation, there was nothing else I could do but bring my A game to designing the rest of the film. So it's a big shoes to step into, and I would have died to have been able to work side by side with Albert, but we couldn't in the height of Omicron. So I had to bring it, and there is a really, I guess the young art school girl in me who got a degree in costume design and studied the great Albert Wolski's oeuvre. I'm pinching myself to be in any orbit of his. And in a small love story, kind of love letter to Albert, he designed that black cloak that Valerie wears at the end. He had it totally styled differently, but I called him and told him how incredible I thought that piece was, and with his blessing, designed the Valerie gown for her, knowing I wanted that piece to land in the boat scene. So even though we couldn't work side by side together, there's one moment where both of our costumes designs will live side by side on Valerie. So nice. And Jay, what is this, your fourth or fifth picture with David?
Lost count.
Yep.
Yeah. Fourth.
He keeps bringing you back.
Yeah, you know.
I'm lucky to have Jay back. And,
Yeah.
I mean, this is a very passionate editor.
Well, this was, for me, this was quite, in ways that David hadn't anticipated. It was a very personal project for me because my grandfather was in the American Expeditionary Force. He ended up in a hospital that was in 1919 and married the nurse who was French, and and as well, that place, which is still there and is now a museum, Blarencourt, was a creation of Anne Morgan, who brought a sort of well-off well-educated American women to the devastated region at the end of the First World War. And that hospital she ended up buying, it was an old chateau, and she ended up buying it and giving it to the town of Blarencourt. And so that little sort of subplot sort of informed sort of my feeling about the material.
And what were a key challenge for you? This is, I think, David's kind of first big epic movie in terms of spanning different periods, and of course 1918 to the mid-30s and all of that. So what was a big challenge for you as an editor on this?
You know, it's kind of hard to sort out what was the challenge. The whole thing was the challenge, I think. You know, you always think, well, I'm older, it's going to get easier, and it doesn't. You know, it's just, you think, well, I've learned something from the other movies. No, you haven't learned anything. You know, so, I would just sort of say that. There is no one thing that's a challenge. There's just the whole thing's the challenge. But then you have these incredible occurrences when Daniel Pemberton fell from the sky and, saw the film in London and wanted to do the score, but wanted to do it so much he started composing it before he had the job. And he gave us the music, the cues that you heard basically in a kind of a sketched form. He gave us those same themes. He just gave it to us. And we received them and we're like, oh my goodness, this is landed on this movie at this moment when it is just crying out for this voice.
I got to thank you all and congratulate you on Amsterdam. It really is an epic and something that, tell everybody you know. It opens on Friday, and congratulations. Thanks for coming out tonight.
Thank you, Pete. Thank you, guys. Thank you all for coming out. Yeah.